In our headlines on this Monday, May 26th here in South Korea. We are counting down 8 days to the June 3rd snap election, and presidential contenders are actively reaching out to voters, pledging policies to promote wealth and welfare. Meanwhile, Russia stages a brutal aerial offensive against Ukraine this past weekend, leading to dozens of civilian casualties and prompting harsh international condemnation. And the painful plight of ordinary people in Gaza persists amid the lack of access to basic necessities such as food, as Israel remains relentless in its retaliation against Hamas. On-board voting is open starting today until Thursday, offering some 30,000 Koreans aboard 454 ships the opportunity to partake in the latest snap election. Now, on-board voting was introduced back in 2012 during the 18th presidential election, and during the last presidential election held in 2022, over 95% of those registered to vote on board cast their ballots. On-board voting is only available for the presidential and parliamentary elections. Meanwhile, early voting is slated to start on Thursday and to end on Friday across the country from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. Presidential hopefuls have now ushered in their final week of the official campaign period, and Liberal Party contender Lee Jae-myung is addressing his supporters in cities surrounding the capital, Seoul, today. I have our political correspondent Shin Ha-young standing by live with details. Ha-young, it's great to have you on, so do fill us in.
Hi, Sunny. I'm currently in the city of Namyangju in Gyeonggi-do province, where Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung is delivering his speech. And during his rallies in this whole metropolitan area today, he aims to gain voters' support by promising to make southeastern of Gyeonggi-do province a better place with improved access to education, housing, and transportation. And earlier today, he met with college students in Suwon to hear about the challenges they face with school and finding jobs. And he said it's a serious problem that young people are worried about housing and stressed the need for more public dormitories. Take a listen.
It's a real problem that students have to worry about housing. The government should step up and use unused campus land to build more public dormitories.
He also pointed out issues including high meal costs and emphasized the need to expand programs like the 1,001 meals.
Ha-young, I hear he also shared pledges to advance foreign policy. Do tell us more.
Sure, Sunny. Lee Jae-myung today pledged to strengthen South Korea's diplomacy and security to protect national interests based on interest amid a rapidly changing international order. And he said he would pursue pragmatic diplomacy centered on national interest based on a strong South Korea-U.S. alliance. And he added that he would work to rebuild trust in the alliance, which he says was damaged by a declaration of martial law. He also emphasized close trilateral cooperation with the U.S. and Japan while maintaining a firm stance toward Tokyo when it comes to historical issues. Here's what he said about bilateral cooperation with Japan.
We need to take a principled stance on historical and territorial issues. At the same time, areas like security, the economy, society, and culture shouldn't be overly restricted because of the historical and territorial issues. While it's not easy to separate these issues, we should approach other areas in a practical way that looks toward the future.
On China, he described it as an important trading partner and highlighted the need for stable Seoul-Beijing relations. Meanwhile, regarding North Korea, he aims to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula and achieve peace through denuclearization. He said Pyongyang's nuclear threats can no longer be ignored and vowed to work closely with the U.S. to resolve the issue. And he also pledged to improve human rights for the North Korean people. That's all for this hour. Sunny?
All right, Ha-young, as always, thank you for that coverage of the Liberal camp. And now we turn to the Conservative camp, whose contender Kim Moon-soo is back also in the capital area following his earlier regional rallies. For details, I have our Kim Do-yeon joining me live. Do-yeon, welcome back. So you are currently in southern Gyeonggi-do province, I hear.
That's right, Sunny. he did spend most of his time in Gyeonggi-do province, which is where I am. And as we know, he served as the Gyeonggi-do province governor twice in the past. Now, he just wrapped up his rally here in Yongin. Now he's off to Seoul. But as you said, he spent most of the time in southern part of Gyeonggi-do. And as we know, the capital region is home to half the nation. And he does have a track record of creating more jobs in Gyeonggi-do province when he was a governor. Take a listen to what he had to say earlier this morning.
During my 8 years as Gyeonggi-do governor, in total I created 43% of all jobs in the nation. I created the most jobs and hosted Samsung's Pyeongtaek chip complex, made Pangyeok Techno Valley and LCD complexes for LG.
This also comes as after this interview, he visited the Pyeongtaek Samsung Electronics campus himself. The complex is known to be the largest in the world by land. There he spoke on how he supported industries and that it's worrisome for him that Samsung and other big companies are recently leaving for other nations such as the US because of tariffs. Meanwhile, as he rallies around the province, he's been trying to compare himself to his DP rival Lee Jae-myung, who was also governor here more recently. He tried to emphasize the legal risks that arose from Lee's time as the mayor of a city in the province and a former governor of the province, while Kim has no legal issues from his terms.
Toyin, we have roughly a week left to the June 3rd snap election. How is the Conservative camp assessing its prospects of victory?
Right. As for the election landscape as a whole, the PPP believes that the DP's lead is narrowing compared to when the election started. And in the next 8 days, they're trying to make a full comeback. Now, one big move, of course, is the merger, as we've been talking about. And the PPP leadership says it'll do anything to make it happen. Take a listen.
I propose that the Reform Party present its conditions for a potential merger. We are prepared to do everything we can to make it happen. And let me be clear, we are fully ready to embrace the Reform Party's policies for the younger generation, especially those in their 20s and 30s.
Of course, the ballots are already being printed, and the Reform Party candidate Lee Jin-suk's name will be on it regardless of the merger, who of course says it won't happen. But during the last election, An Chol-soo merged with Yoon just before the early voting, so we'll keep a close watch. That's all for now. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Thoyon, thank you for that coverage of the Conservative camp. Also, on the campaign trail, Reform Party candidate Lee Jin-suk has reaffirmed his resolve to remain in the presidential race, rejecting the People Power Party's push for a merger. The resolve was shared on Monday, with Lee adding that his party is determined to run and win the race and that the PPP should pressure its own candidate to resign, not him. The 40-year-old contender recently saw his approval rating reach 10% amid growing support from those in their 20s as well as 30s and from moderate voters. And just last Friday, presidential contenders faced off in a second TV debate, this time on matters of social concern. And beyond their policy pledges, they fiercely locked horns over alleged wrongdoings. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young covers the debate and the dispute.
While promising social unity, presidential candidates clashed ferociously over politics and policy in their second televised debate. Focusing on social affairs, Friday's topic were social division, social safety nets and sustainability. The Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung said he would overcome social division and inequality with technology such as artificial intelligence and continue to improve the current national pension system. As the former Labour Minister, the People Power Party's Kim Moon-soo promised to build wider income safety nets for small businesses with improved pension schemes. Reform candidate Lee Jin-suk proposed a major pension overhaul, pointing out that the two major parties' legislative revision last year benefits the older generation, while adding a $37,000 burden on every young Korean. He also called for cuts to unnecessary high-tech scams that ramp up health insurance premiums. Democratic Labour's Kon Young-guk suggested doubling the basic pension to over $500 and building scores of state-run hospitals. Candidates also clashed over climate and energy policies. Left-leaning candidates continued pushing for renewable energy sources over nuclear power. Kim Won-soo and Lee Jun-seok argue that nuclear power is much more efficient, affordable and essential to support future industries like AI. But politics overrode policy throughout the two-hour debate. Lee Jae-myung said Kim Won-soo was part of the impeached Yoon Suk-yeol administration that declared martial law last year.
The most extreme form of social conflict is an insurrection by martial law. Were they trying to completely wipe out the opposition?
Kim Won-soo accused Lee's party of insurrection for handing radical left-wing group seats in parliament and underscored Lee's 5 criminal trials.
In corruption cases like Baekhyun-dong and Daejang-dong, just look at how many people close to him are in prison or have died under suspicious circumstances. Uprooting lies and corruption is the first step toward national unity.
Lee Jun-seok blasted both the leading parties. He said that while the Conservatives are tarnished with Yoon's martial law, the majority Democratic Party is just as guilty of creating a broken society.
You should be ashamed. Those who are jointly responsible for wrecking the country show up in red and blue, only different in color, fighting over power in a shameless world.
The third and final live debate takes place on Tuesday, focusing on politics. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Russia staged a brutal aerial offensive against Ukraine this past weekend that has prompted harsh international condemnation. Our Kim Bo-kyung has details.
At least 12 people were killed and 60 wounded in different regions of Ukraine after the Kremlin launched a series of air assaults throughout Ukraine late Saturday night. Among those killed were 3 children from the same family in the Zhytomyr region, west of Kyiv, according to Ukraine's Internal Affairs Minister.
Let the world wake up and see. How long can they bomb children? We go to bed and do not know what awaits us in the morning.
Nearly 300 attack drones and almost 70 missiles of various types were fired, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on his social media X account, where he said ordinary citizens were subject to deliberate attacks. Zelensky condemned America's silence, saying it encouraged Putin, and asked for sanctions that would show the determination of the U.S. and European countries to stop Russia's brutality. Later on Sunday, U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, called Russia's overnight attacks a clear violation of the 1977 Geneva Peace Protocols designed to protect innocents. The protocol is an annex to the Geneva Convention signed in 1949, containing provisions for the protection of victims of international armed conflicts. Europe, too, strongly condemned Russia and warned of additional sanctions. German Foreign Minister Johann Vadeful said Putin, having no interest in peace, should not be tolerated and that the EU will agree to further sanctions. EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas was on the same page, stating the strongest international pressure was needed to make Russia end the war. The assault overnight into Sunday came despite the largest prisoner swap of the war taking place. Ukraine brought home 303 prisoners of war on Sunday in the final phase of a 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner exchange with Russia. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And the painful plight of people in Gaza persists amid the lack of access to basic necessities such as food, as Israel remains relentless in its retaliation against Hamas. Our Iani reports.
Hamdi al-Najjar, a Palestinian doctor, is in critical condition following an Israeli airstrike that killed 9 of his 10 children. His wife, also a doctor at Nasser Hospital in southern Gaza, had to see her burned children in the ruins of their home.
So she told me her children have died. She went to her house and saw her children burned. May God help her.
According to Gaza's government media office, the children killed ranged in age from 7 months to 12 years old. The only survivor, an 11-year-old, is severely injured. Israel's military confirmed it carried out the strike on Khan Yunis on Friday, saying that it targeted suspected militants operating from a structure near Israeli troops in an area that had been told to evacuate. The IDF added that the claim regarding harm to uninvolved civilians is under review. Meanwhile, Hamas accused Israel of deliberately targeting medical staff and their families and civilians. On Saturday, a 4-year-old child died due to severe malnutrition, raising the hunger-related death toll to over 58 in the besieged enclave over the past 80 days. Also, more than 240 people, mostly children and the elderly, have died from a lack of food and medical care.
My message to the world: besiege the embassies, speak up, break this siege, stop this genocide on the Gaza Strip, on our hungry, besieged people.
Amid growing global outrage, Spain hosted a high-level meeting in Madrid on Sunday with over 20 European and Arab countries to pressure Israel for a ceasefire and lift its humanitarian aid blockade into Gaza. The meeting included EU countries that were once considered close allies of Israel, now joining the international call for restraint as Israel expands its military operations in Gaza. The U.S. urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to delay plans for a full-scale ground offensive in Gaza. That's according to the Jerusalem Post on Sunday, which said the request was made in order to allow ceasefire negotiations and a hostage deal proceed in parallel with military operations. With the ceasefire negotiations deadlocked, Israel has intensified its bombardment and ground invasion in Gaza, with reports saying that its forces now control over 77% of the Gaza Strip. 이은희, Arirang News.
And in other news, Harvard University and U.S. President Donald Trump remain locked in a hostile standoff as the latter seeks to exercise control over the former's campus policies. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
U.S. President Donald Trump took to Truth Social on Sunday to demand that Harvard University provide its administration with the names and nationalities of all its international students. In the late-night post, Trump noted that 31% of Harvard's students are from foreign lands, some of which are not friendly to the United States. Trump added that his administration wants to know who those foreign students are, stressing that the demand is a reasonable request as the government gives the Ivy League school billions of dollars. Harvard University says there would be over 6,700 names on the list. According to the New York Times on Sunday, the Trump administration's decision to block international students from enrolling at Harvard is raising concerns among other U.S. universities and colleges. The report notes that while Harvard is the administration's target now, it could spread to other schools in the country. In a Fox News interview last week, U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem raised the possibility that other schools, including Columbia University, could face a similar fate. The president of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Sally Kornbluth, slammed the Trump administration's ban on Harvard's international student enrollment, calling it a fatal blow to American excellence, openness, and creativity. The Trump administration has been demanding changes to campus policies, citing the need to eradicate anti-Semitism at universities. Harvard has refused to implement those changes, claiming they infringe on academic freedom. A court has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's plan. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Also, U.S. President Donald Trump has walked back his threat of a 50% tariff on EU imports, which he claimed would commence this coming Sunday. Addressing a press poll this past Sunday, he spoke of, quote, a very nice call with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen that led to a delay of the tariff to July 9th. Von der Leyen, for her part, took to her social media platform to reaffirm the good conversation, adding that Europe is prepared to promote talks, quote, swiftly and decisively. Up next, we bring you the first installment in our special series of stories to mark 60 years of diplomatic relations between Seoul and Tokyo. Now, every Monday over the next few weeks, we cover the broader impact of culture in advancing bilateral ties. My colleague An Sung-jin reports from Japan.
This year, 2025, marks the 60th anniversary of normalized relations between Korea and Japan. Though social and historical issues still remain, Hallyu, or Korean wave, has been a source of soft power. Though none of this is new, how far have we come? To answer that question, I've spent some time here in Tokyo to see how Korean culture is integrated into everyday lives. The beginning of the Korean culture boom in Japan started off with the 2003 drama Winter Sonata.
in which Japanese adoration of the main character Baeungjun, also known as Yunsama, was notable. But starting from the second and third wave of Hallyu, it was mostly driven by K-pop stars sweeping the Tokyo Dome and the hearts of numerous fans. BTS, Big Bang, Boy Next Door.
Boy Next Door. First, I liked them for the music, but once I saw the members, I thought they were also very good looking.
With name-shedding stars like Girls' Generation and Kara in the late 2000s to BTS and Blackpink in the late 2010s, K-pop brought an influx of new lifestyles, including beauty, fashion, and food to Japan.
So this record shop in Tokyo is the largest of its kind. And you can see it has an entire floor dedicated to K-pop, but you can also see that it's flooded with all sorts of fans for different K-pop artists.
The consistent popularity of K-pop has been apparent for decades, with Japan topping the list of countries in terms of K-pop album export values. The fourth wave of Hallyu was characterized by something else. New content beyond K-pop began to evolve, and with the expansion of OTT platforms came a boom in Korean dramas, especially post-COVID-19. As these continue to garner more popularity, interestingly, Japan has absorbed it into a unique form of its own kind.
Even though it was only aired on Netflix, everyone knew about the drama, and I think it could even be said to have brought a new boom of Korean dramas. There was no reason not to make this into a musical.
Director Mariko was in charge of recreating the popular drama Crash Landing on You into a musical, which can only be seen in Japan. Though the main challenge for her was to create a condensed version of a long drama series, she said Korean dramas are fun to stage and is willing to do another if the chance comes along.
Even though the musical is in Korean, the audience will read off the subtitles from the side and still enjoy it.
And now, as Tokyo slips into the fifth Hallyu boom, the Japanese public has been attracted to a wider range of cultural elements from Korea.
Here I'm at a local bookstore in Roppongi, and in the international literature section you can see a wide range of Korean books, including well-known author Han Kyung's literature, The Vegetarian.
The influence of Korean culture now extends beyond K-pop and K-dramas, stretching into literature, cuisine, and other various forms of Korean content, marking a broader cultural expansion. And this year's 60th anniversary serves as an opportunity to reflect on the past and look ahead to the future of the Korea-Japan relationship, considering the changing international landscape and the ongoing challenges. So join me every Monday to explore the realms of Korean culture in Japan. An Song-jin, Arirang News, Tokyo.
The season is gradually changing to summer, and from this afternoon, the weather started to feel hot again. The daytime temperature in Seoul rose to 26 degrees Celsius, which was 3 degrees higher than yesterday. Temperatures are expected to rise day by day throughout this week, reaching as high as around 30 degrees in the later half. Ultraviolet rays were strong in most areas today due to the strong sunshine. In particular, the UV index reached very high in the Seoul metropolitan area and Gangwon-do provinces, where there was less cloud cover. It will continue to be very hot across the country from tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow morning, Seoul and Busan will start off at 15 degrees Celsius and Jeju at 17 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 26 degrees in Seoul, 28 degrees in Daegu. However, heavy showers are forecast for eastern regions tomorrow and Wednesday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. As always, thank you for watching.